Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? Let me tell you guys, I am so excited to be back. We were off for 2 weeks. That was tough on me because you guys know I love doing these live chats. Sorry that there was no chat for 2 weeks. It was not done intentionally. As you guys know, I am a retail worker and it was the holiday season these last 2 weeks and I got annihilated. Like my work was so busy this holiday. So I actually did not plan on it. You know, some people might have thought, oh, Benji's taking like a 2 week, vacation for Christmas and New Year's. That was not the plan. The plan was to be here both of those weeks, but I was just so freaking busy at work. I literally could not squeeze in a chat. Like every time I thought, okay, tomorrow I'm going to end up doing the chat, something else came up. So it was crazy. So I apologize that we had no chat for the last 2 weeks. That said, it wasn't the craziest, busiest news weeks, of course, as we were over the holidays. There was a couple things maybe you guys want to talk about today. Maybe some people are going to ask about High on Life, because that did some crazy numbers and I didn't do a chat after that. Maybe people are going to ask about some other stuff that popped up over those 2 weeks, but we didn't miss too much. So I hope you guys all had an amazing holiday. I am so glad and excited to be back today for this chat. We're going to go for about an hour and a half. Some of the things we can talk about besides, like I said, the 2 weeks worth of news that I missed. There's also, we can start previewing what we think is going to happen here in 2023. It's a, huge year it's looking like. It's looking like it's going to be just absolutely crazy this year. So we can talk about that, some of the game releases. What do we expect from hardware? What do we expect from software? What's going to be the big games? What games might underperform? Anything like that you guys want to talk about? We can go into that if you want. We can discuss the PlayStation 5. Sony has just announced that it has crossed 30 million units. We can talk about that if you guys want, what it means for Sony, what it means for current gen in general. PlayStation VR 2 comes out next month. There's been a lot of debate about whether that's going to be a success or not. There's a ton of stuff, right? Tons of stuff that we can get to. The video game industry, even whenever it's not a crazy news cycle, is never short on things to discuss. So we can go into all of that. If this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, the way it works, it's a stream, it's a show, it's 100% driven by you. Your comments, your questions, you just drop them down into chat and we break down the latest news in the video game industry. There's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. You just type a question, whatever you want, down into chat and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. If you want to guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that's going to be the super chat option. Type a donation of whatever you want. It alerts me immediately and I get to super chats immediately. As always, don't feel pressured or obligated to donate into super chat. It's just a way to help support me and the channel and guarantee that I get to your question. Depending on how turnout and questions are today, my current plan is to go for about an hour and a half. So start filling that chat up with anything you guys want to talk about. It can be about any topic. It doesn't have to be about the ones in the thumbnail, but start filling that chat up, guys. And it's great to see you. I hope you all had an amazing holiday. All right. Hammersley Ford is going to be kicking us off here today. Hello, Benji. About the rumored Xbox show, we still did not get any announcements, and Xbox usually announces the shows a month before the show. Can we rule a January show out now? Hammersley Ford, the only reason I'm going to say no, we can't rule it out is I think some people maybe, for anyone that's missed it, there's been some rumblings that maybe Microsoft is going to have a show early this year. They desperately need one. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I'm sure we're going to go into, I'll expand on why they desperately need one. I think a lot of people know, but we'll talk about why. But the main reason why I think we can't necessarily rule out a January show right now is I think some people may be over expecting what this showcase is going to be if it's real. So if a showcase is real, guys, I would not expect many new announcements here, and they don't need to have many new announcements. Microsoft and Xbox already have so many freaking games announced that we essentially know nothing about, or we have no idea when it's coming out. So I think, and I don't know this, guys, it's not insider information, it's just me theorizing basically on the current state of Xbox. To me, this makes sense. if Microsoft is going to have a show of some sort early in this year, I don't think they're going to be coming out and announcing games, really. Maybe you're going to get like one or maybe two game announcements, but not really. I think the main point of it's going to be, let's show you Starfield and let's give Starfield a date. Let's show you Redfall and let's give Redfall a date. Let's show you Minecraft Legends. Let's give Minecraft Legends a date. Let's show you Forza and let's give you a date. You know, none of these games are dated. They have 4 games that right now they're claiming are going to be out within the next 6 months. I don't think it's going to be like an E3 show early in the year. I don't think it's going to be like Microsoft coming on stage and being like, and here's this game announcement and this game announcement. I think it's going to be, hey, let's show you these games again, because the reality is most of these games we've seen once and never again. Right? We only really saw Forza once. I know there was that little teaser back when it was first announced, but we only really saw the game once, and that was at E3, and it has no date. We've only really seen Starfield once, and again, that was at E3 6 months ago with no date. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these games we have still really barely seen, and also we have no dates on them. So I don't think Microsoft needs to come out with an E3 level show. I think that's one thing that some people might be getting mistaken about. What I think they need to come out is more of a like Nintendo Direct style presentation, where it's a quick 30, 45 minute thing where they're like, here are these games and here we're going to date every single one of them for you, because right now, you know, we talked about this, I think, on my last chat like 2 weeks ago. If Microsoft doesn't start dating some of these games ASAP, they're not all coming, okay? I'm just letting you guys know that because of the way that marketing cycles work. If Microsoft does not start putting release dates on these games within the next 3 to 4 weeks, some of them are not coming in the window that they promised you back in E3. Now, I don't want to say promise like they broke a promise and they're being so mean, but I mean, clearly things were delayed again. Because the reality is, right now, you're trying to squeeze 4 first-party games within 6 months. You want to have some space between each one of those. You would think at least a month between each one, and you would also want to be able to market each one of those games. As we get closer and closer to June, because that was what the statement was, it was the next 12 months, so that runs to June. As we get closer and closer to that, if these games still don't have dates, that means they're not all coming, guys. They're not all coming by June. I'm still hopeful that they're all coming by June, but I'm just saying if we don't get dates soon, and by soon I mean very soon, the next 3 to 4 weeks, they don't have to necessarily date every one of these games within the next 3 to 4 weeks, but some of them at least have to start getting dates. Like they literally have to start getting dates, or else they're not coming within that window. So that is the feeling I have would be the best move for Xbox. Save a lot of the big reveals for their E3 show. They don't need to just come out and announce everything right now at the beginning of the year. I think that would actually be a mistake. I think they really need to give you like 1 or 2 announcements, whatever, right? Just to make the show have something new besides those games. But I think a quick 45-minute show to give you updates on these games and give you dates would be perfectly good enough, because you're going to have potentially, we need to see if they all make those dates, but potentially 4 first-party games hitting Game Pass, and technically 5, because Age of Empires 2 is also coming. Technically 5 first-party games coming in the next 6 months. It's almost a game per month. So I don't think you necessarily need a bunch of new announcements, but you need to give these games dates so people know when they're going to play them. So I wouldn't rule out January show now. I don't think it's like a lock or anything, but I wouldn't rule it out just because I don't think they're going to hype this thing like they would an E3 level show, because I don't think it's going to be that level of show, personally. Joseki here. What is up, Joseki? Great to see you, man. Hello, Benji. What is up? Do you think Sony will hit the 18 million PS5 target this fiscal year? The 30 million announcement makes me somewhat doubtful they will manage. I will tell you guys that the December performance for PlayStation 5 does not surprise me in the least. If you guys know, I talked about this. I know I have privately, but I think I did publicly. I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago or so on my live chat, that December was like nothing I've ever seen for PlayStation 5, at least in North America. Now, Europe, I know, has been a bit more of a struggle compared to the US, but I've quite literally never seen PlayStation 5 at remotely the types of levels that they're shipping in the United States right now. So when Sony came out yesterday and said that December was the biggest PlayStation 5 month ever, I was quite literally 0% surprised. I can tell you, Joseki, that is carrying into January. I think the 18 million target is definitely doable because I think you're going to see a monstrous juggernaut first quarter as well. When Jim Ryan came out on stage yesterday and said PlayStation 5 is essentially fixed, like he didn't say it's like we're still working on it. He essentially said PlayStation 5 shortages are fixed. In so many words, he didn't literally say that, but essentially he said from now on, moving forward, you're not going to have that much trouble finding PS5s. I can tell you, Joseki, at least in the United States, that statement is 1,000% true. You can literally walk into stores right now and buy PS5s, which has not been the thing for a very long time. So as long as this doesn't stop, which it's been going, to be honest with you, since mid-November, from mid-November all the way through December and now through early January, in the US, and guys, I know Europe is different. In the United States, PlayStation 5 is no longer supply constrained, and not to a huge amount. Maybe a little bit, but it's not the sort of situation remotely like it's been the last 2 years. So if they're really going to ship a monstrous first quarter, and I know it's technically the fourth quarter of their fiscal year, but you know what I mean, of the calendar year, if they really ship January through March like I think they're probably going to, judging by how insane the shipment levels are right now, because like I said, it's not stopping, guys. We're like 5 days into January. I know it's still the very beginning of the month, but I'm saying as of now in January, those PS5 shipments are not slowing down. They are extremely heavy. So I'm not going to say that the 18 million is like a lock, but I don't consider it highly doubtful because I think they're going to have a monstrous first quarter as well. So we'll have to see, though. We'll have to see. But it's not impossible, no. Not if they keep shipping like they are right now. Danger Man 1337, which is actually Danger Man Elite, I believe, but I just like saying 1337. What is up, man? Saying, Benji-Sales, hope you have a good Christmas and New Year's. Yes, it was great. I hope you did too as well, Danger Man. Starting off with the big three Microsoft games locked in the first half of this year. What does the second half look like? Will they have more than one big second half hitter? So my theory, and I don't know this, Danger Man, because you got to remember there's also some other first-party stuff sprinkled in there, right? Minecraft Legends. I know what you mean by the big three, because those are the big three exclusives. Minecraft Legends is probably going to be huge. It's Minecraft, and that's first-party as well, but it is multi-platform. And also Age of Empires 2 is also first quarter. All right, not first quarter, first half. But again, I don't expect that to be like massive, and that's been out for a long time on PC. But their first half of the year, if all these games really make it, is probably the most stacked 6 months Microsoft's ever had for any console. Like, legitimately. I don't know that Microsoft ever in the entire history of Xbox, assuming all these games make their release dates, which is a big assumption to make with Microsoft with how these games have been in terms of releasing. If this all happens, I don't believe any Xbox console ever has had such heavy first-party support in such a small window. So, will the second half be remotely like that? No, I don't think so. Part of the reason the first half of the year is so insanely stacked, as we know, is because all these delays, right? We know for a fact that Redfall was delayed out of last year, and we know for a fact Starfield was delayed out of last year. Now, Forza, who knows? Maybe that was always planned for this year, though I've heard some rumblings that might not have been. Also, who knows? Maybe Minecraft Legends and Age of Empires were always targeting this year, right? But at the very least, we know two big games got delayed into this window. I think the second half is still going to have some stuff. There's some rumblings and rumors. Hellblade 2 is like the big holiday, the big holiday or Q4 game for Q3, Q4 game for Xbox. I can believe that. That game's been in development for quite some time now. And we've actually seen in game on it. I don't think you'll get like a ton of big hitters in the second half besides one. I think there's definitely going to be one really big hitter. Maybe that's Hellblade 2. I kind of feel like it's probably Hellblade 2. And maybe like one or two other smaller projects, kind of like the Age of Empires 2 level or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a smaller game. But I wouldn't go into the second half of 2023 thinking that Microsoft's going to be like the first half where you're going to get, you know, Forza and Redfall and Starfield and Minecraft Legends. Like, I don't think you're going to get that much. Maybe like Hellblade 2. Again, assuming the rumblings are real about that hitting this year, and maybe like one other smaller, type project, like a Pentiment style size game or something like that. That's what I think. But I do think you'll get at least one more big hitter in the second half. Because otherwise it would be silly of them to front load the year that much. You would maybe, and I know it would break the promise, but you would maybe move something that was announced in the first half back a little bit, maybe even to like August or late summer. I think if you had nothing in the second half of the year. So the fact that these are all, at least as of now, still coming in the first half, I think they have at least one big one in the second half. All right. Oh, we had a couple super chats. Let me hit those super chats really quick. Timmer72299 dropping a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Timmer. Great to see you, man. Hope you're doing well, Benji. Keep being awesome. You as well, Timmer. Thank you, as always, for all of your support, man. I hope you're doing great. I hope you had an amazing holiday. Thank you so much for the super chat. Reverse World with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Reverse World, as well. Be Greedy. What do you want to see at the showcase? Well, Reverse World, this answer for me is pretty easy. The number one Xbox game that we have not seen anything on yet that I want to see the most is Fable. I'm a huge fan of Fable 1. I'm a huge fan of Fable 2. Fable 3, I'll be honest, not so much, and I never played the Kinect games, but I really liked Fable 1 and Fable 2. I love those games. I think that Playground is an amazing studio. Forza Horizon is like one of my favorite series ever, and I'm not even like a huge racing or car guy, but those Forza Horizon games are so good. It's literally one of my favorite series of games ever. So to me, there's no question, Reverse World. If I could have my greedy wish, it would be that we'd finally friggin' see Fable. Now, I don't consider that super likely. I think they would probably save Fable for their like big showcase, their E3 level show. I do think we'll see it this year because I think it's coming in 2024. So I think they will finally show you that game. But that's my selfish wish. I don't expect to see Fable, but if I could just have Microsoft show any game that we haven't seen yet besides, that CG trailer, we haven't seen actually what the game is, it'd be Fable. Easy Reverse World. Easy. I want to see Fable a lot, but I'm also a huge Fable fan and a huge Playground Games fan. So thank you for those 2 super chats, guys. Iber Romero, what do you think of PlayStation numbers? Supply seems almost over. In Japan, almost 100,000. Yeah, I think you mean supply constraints. Almost 100,000 per week. 30 million console sales. Predictions for the end of the fiscal year for PS5. Yeah, like I said, Eber, I agree with this. Again, I know that the situation in Europe's different. So if you're watching this from Europe right now, you're probably like, what are you guys talking about? But in the United States, and also Japan has improved a lot, but also particularly the US, guys. The US numbers are insane right now. At least in some markets, not all, but I agree with you, Eber, in some markets, the supply constraints are almost over. I'm not going to go as bold as to say completely, but Jim Ryan was not joking whenever he was on stage yesterday, and he was like, moving forward, it's going to be much, much easier to get a PS5. I don't know how they did this. Like, I'm just going to be real with you. I don't know what they did to make getting components so much easier. I don't know if they're paying a ton of money to get priority. I don't know if they worked out some crazy contracts. I literally couldn't tell you. This is the internal workings of Sony. But whatever they've done, they have vastly improved production. Vastly. So we'll have to see. But Eber, yes, I agree that they seemed heavily improved. I'm not 1,000% fixed. We still need to get Europe to a much better place first. But vastly improved, yes. Prediction for the end of the fiscal year. What did they ship? What did they ship in the quarter? Let me see. What did they ship in their fiscal Q4 last year? Give me just a second. What did they ship? Might take me just a second. Okay, so for their Q4 last year, they shipped they shipped 2 million. Okay, so they shipped 2 million. 2 million for their last fiscal year in Q4. I would think at least a million higher. At least a million higher. potentially more. So, Ibra, I'm going to say they shipped 2 million for their Q4 last year. I'm going to predict a minimum of 3 million and potentially more, but we need to see. But I don't think it'll be under 3 million, no. Don't think it'll be under 3 million. So we need to see, and it could be higher, to be honest with you, but at minimum, I would expect 1 million more units for their Q4 this year. Potentially higher. I don't know, guys. It's a little hard to say without, more detailed numbers, but I would expect at minimum 1 million higher shipments for this Q4, and I won't be surprised if it's more than that, guys. If you see something crazy like a 2 million higher quarter, I won't be shocked. We need to see. This is only January, guys, so maybe February and March falls off a cliff. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to lock this in right now, but if things continue like they are right now, expect a minimum of 1 million units higher and potentially much more. But we need to see. I think it's going to be a huge quarter. Which I know 3 million is not the hugest quarter in the world, but it's still 1 million higher than last year. And I think I won't be shocked at all if it's 2 million. Like, I won't be shocked if you see a 4 million quarter. I really won't. If February, March, and the rest of January look like how it does right now. All right. Let me see. I think there might have been a couple super chats. There is. Let me hit these super chats. Highlander, holy cow, dropping a 20. Very generous, Highlander. You don't need to do that, buddy. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Highlander dropping 20 as an amputee and volunteering with other amputees at a rehab center. I am happy to see Sony join Microsoft in making an adaptive controller. As an amputee, only time we feel normal is when we can game like others. This is a W. It's a huge W. I feel bad that I didn't cover it much on my Twitter. It was because while the Sony CES presentation was going on, I was actually at work. So I could only tweet out, I only tweeted out like 2 things from their CES presentation. And by the time I did, everyone had already covered the adaptive controller and stuff. So I was behind the times on it because I was literally working during it. And I was like, okay, everyone else has got this covered. But it's great. It's a great move from Sony. I am very happy to see this. The more accessible and easier we make, the industry makes it for anyone to be able to play games, the better, right? We all want this. We all want more people to play games, not only for their own personal benefit in terms of the person. Gaming, in my opinion, is the best form of entertainment in the world. So, of course, I want accessibility to be a huge priority because I love gaming and I think it helps a lot of people. So not only in terms of a personal basis is it a great thing to have accessibility, it's also a great thing for the industry, of course, financially, right? The more people you have that can engage with your games, it's the more people that can buy games. It's the more people that can support games, all of that sort of thing. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to engage with games. It's one advantage that movies and television have over gaming is that for a lot of people, and of course, there's disabilities that affect that as well, if people can watch movies or TV, of course, but it's a much lower barrier for those forms of entertainment because you don't have to physically engage with it. It's more of a passive experience. That's one challenge that gaming faces, is that it is an active experience. It's not passive. So that makes it a little more challenging, especially for some people. So I'm very happy to see this. Huge W for Sony. Great job. Very happy to see this, Highlander. Absolutely. And thank you for that super chat. Anthony Johnson here dropping a 5. Thank you so much, Anthony Johnson. Very, very kind of you. Great to see you. Leaks say Redfall is targeting early May. Do you think that Starfield is delayed or may come out around before Redfall? Would Starfield kill Redfall? Anthony Johnson, it actually hasn't affected my opinion on when Starfield's coming out much because I've always said, and you guys can go back a long time, all the way back pretty much to when it was delayed. I've been saying for a very long time, I think Starfield's June. I think they delayed that game as far out into that window as they could. They promised, all they said is that this is the next 12 months. So that runs all the way through the end of June of next year because they made that statement in June of next year. I would expect this game late June. I feel very confident in that. I don't think it's delayed. I don't think you're getting it before Redfall. I think you're going to get it at the very end of June. That's what I think. I thought that this was pushed probably to the limit of that window so they could give it as much time as possible. It's Microsoft's arguably, guys, Starfield is Microsoft's arguably most important game that they've had, dude, in a long time. Since Halo 3, maybe. And that might sound like hyperbole. It's really not. And the reason why Starfield is so important for Microsoft and Xbox is this is the game that really is, and we have to see if it's good. Who knows? And that's part of why I think it's delayed all the way till June. I think so they can give it as much dev time as possible. This game is vastly important because this is the game that's kind of setting the tone about what the future of Xbox is. And I know that's a lot to put on a single game. But if you look, we have not had many new games from these studios that Microsoft has acquired since they went on the acquisition spree. Most of those studios haven't put a new game out. And the ones that have, like Playground, which they bought since they acquired, they released games like Forza Horizon, which were games that were already being released under the Xbox umbrella. They just didn't own Playground at the time. There hasn't been much, right? Obsidian's put out Pentiment. Like, I'm not saying there's been zero, but there has been very little big, huge AAA games out of that acquisition spree that Microsoft went on those last few years. There's been very little, and this is kind of setting the tone. This is the payoff, right? We're buying all these studios. This is the sort of thing you're going to see moving forward. Here's what Bethesda can put out. This is giving you a taste and a preview of the big things that we can have coming from us. There's a lot riding on Starfield, a lot. So I kind of thought from the beginning, once they delayed this bad boy, I'm like, and once they said these games are the next 12 months back at E3, I'm like, this thing's going to be as late as possible. They're going to push that thing, and I could be wrong. Maybe they surprise us, but I don't think I am. I think it's going to hit the very end of June. I think, because isn't the Redfall leak that's like early-ish May? I don't think that's a big deal. You got a month between them, and they're on Game Pass, which makes them both easily accessible. If they were like 2 weeks apart, it would be a problem. But if they're like a month apart, a full month, I don't think it's that big of an issue. Yeah, I think it's still late June, the very end of the month, guys. I'm not even saying it's going to be early. I think this is going to be like the last week of June. And so my guess would be that you see Redfall in May. You see Starfield the very end of June, and I think Forza squeezes in there in March or April. Maybe March. That way you have a bit of a gap still with Redfall if you can manage it, but maybe not. But March or April for Forza, I think. So that's kind of my expectations, but we'll have to see. Now, would Starfield kill Redfall? Not if there's a month between them. If it's closer than that, it is a problem. So if Redfall, let's say, comes out, I don't remember the exact rumored date, but let's say like middle of May, and then like Starfield was the beginning of June, which I don't expect because that's where Diablo is, and I don't think they want those to go head to head. But let's just say something crazy. Let's say Microsoft's like, whatever, we're releasing it in early June. Then it'd be a problem. But if these games have like 4 weeks between them, that's a pretty long time. I don't think it's that big of an issue. Highlander001 with a second super chat. Thank you so much. A 5. How was your holidays? Gave my daughter one at Pac-Man Arcade in Stool. Yeah, you told us on the last chat that you got her that. Posted on Twitter. Oh, I'll have to look, dude. I'll have to look. I will check it out. And got a lot of rude comments. Man, to have that much hate. Dude, Highlander, don't let it get to you. So, first of all, that's unfortunate that somebody did that. That people posted rude comments. My advice on this is always the same as it has always been in regards of social media. Do not be afraid to block and mute people. Just do it. Just get rid of them. You don't have to have those people in your life. That's the beautiful thing about Twitter is it gives you the option. You can either straight up block them if you think that the issues are too severe, or if you just find them annoying, you can just mute them. So, Highlander, it is awful. Unfortunately, social media makes people behave a little ridiculous at times. But that would be my suggestion. Block and mute every single one of them that gives you a rude comment. Once you start doing it enough, there's not really that many left. There's still some, but you can clean up your feed a lot by blocking a lot of these people. So, that would be my suggestion. Now, in terms of my holiday, it was pretty good. My daughter got a ridiculous amount of toys, like an absolutely insane amount of toys. We said before going into Christmas that we don't need to buy her a lot of toys because she's 4 years old and she already has 20 million toys. We'll just get her like a few cool things, and that didn't pan out. I think a lot of parents can probably relate to that. You start buying your kids some stuff, and next thing you know, you have bought far more than you expected to buy. So that's what happened with me, Highlander. My daughter had an amazing Christmas. She loved it. She kept saying best Christmas ever. So that makes you feel good as a parent. And I apologize for people being rude to you, Highlander. Block and mute them. And I'm sure you gave your daughter an amazing Christmas. Thank you so much for that super chat. Okay, Pumpkin TV here. Hi, Benji. Happy New Year's. Do you see Bayonetta 3 reaching 1 million on its first quarter? That is so hard to say, Pumpkin TV, because, like, we just don't have a lot of data for it. You know, you get a little bit out of Japan, you get a little bit out of UK, but you don't really get a lot. Sorry, I just got distracted by a news story that just popped up. But anyways, it's hard to say. 1 million in its first quarter. If I had to pick, I would say no. But you never know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't have a great read on Bayonetta 3, to be honest with you. It's hard to say. We have no digital for that game from anywhere, really. And I don't know. If I'm going to predict, I'm going to say no in the first quarter. Do I think it's going to sell over 1 million lifetime? Yeah, absolutely. But do I think it's 1 million first quarter? Maybe not, but we'll have to see. I will say Bayonetta 3 did not seem like a huge hit, which I don't think anyone expected it to be. You know, it's not like it was like I don't think it was either a huge bomb either, because we've talked about this on the chat before. Bayonetta has always been a fairly niche franchise. It's never been a huge juggernaut seller. So I never expected a ton out of Bayonetta 3. So we'll have to see. It's hard to say that, but I don't have a great read on that game. Joseki, also I was curious about Persona 3 Remake. It's a great question. It seems a little weird, but the sources on it are pretty solid. I feel like if Sony wants to keep the franchise exclusive like Final Fantasy, they have to secure at least timed exclusivity for it and Persona 6, or Nintendo Switch PC share will grow too big to give up for Atlus and Sega. Thoughts and expectations, and you also have to factor Game Pass money in there. Persona 5 did very well on Game Pass. The best a JRPG has actually ever performed on Xbox as far as I can tell. I've never seen a JRPG rank so high, not just on the Game Pass list, but the Xbox most played list. It seems the Persona 5 experiment was very successful for Xbox in terms of engagement. Now, to be clear, it sold a lot more on PlayStation, it sold a lot more on PC, and it sold a lot more on Switch. Xbox definitely sold the fewest units, but people always forget that with games that hit Game Pass, it's not really just about sales anymore. Microsoft signs you a big check. Like, that's how it works. I have people ask me all the time with Game Pass deals. They're like, well, how does the dev get money? Because it's, you know, it's free. The people can just engage with it. It's like, because Microsoft signed them a $50 million check. That's how they get the money. No, I don't know if that Persona was $50 million, but that's how devs get money. Microsoft waltzes up to them and they're like, here's a fat paycheck. Put the game on the service. So that's how it works out. So clearly Microsoft paid to get Persona. Like, Atlus, out of the goodwill of their hearts, didn't put, you know, Persona 3, 4, and 5 on Game Pass. I'm sure Microsoft gave them a pretty fat check. So between, like, I agree with what you're saying here, Joseki, between how much the game sold on Nintendo Switch, between how much it sold on PC, and between how much they got for that fat Game Pass check from Microsoft, that's a lot of money potentially you're just leaving on the table going PlayStation exclusive. So my thoughts on if Persona 3 Remake or Persona 6 are going to be exclusive, my total guess here, and I don't have any inside information on this, my total guess is Persona 3 Remake will be fully multi-platform. Could be wrong, but I think it'll be multi-platform. My guess is Persona 6 is timed exclusive to PlayStation. Now, a permanent exclusive, no. And will it be as long as Persona 5 was exclusive? Because that was exclusive for a long time. If you go all the way back to the original Persona 5, right? Not just the Royal release, but all the way back to the original, a very long time. I think Sony will have Persona 6 as a timed exclusive 1 to 2 years. That's what I think. I don't think it's going to be one of these things where it's like exclusive for 4 or 5 years, like kind of what we saw at Persona 5, right? Wasn't that 2016? That was exclusive for a long time. I don't think Atlus will do that again. After they've seen the success on Switch, PC, and Game Pass money, they're going to want that money. But I think Sony will throw a bag at it to make it timed exclusive. So that would be my guess. My guess is Persona 3 Remake fully multi-platform, Persona 6 1 to 2 year timed exclusive on PlayStation. But we'll have to see. Could be wrong. I don't have any inside info. That's just my guess. I think Sony will pay a lot of money to get Persona 6 timed. All right. All right, cool. We're still good on Super Chats. Iber Romero, do you think this year Sony will acquire big stakes on Final Fantasy Studios or Square, or acquire all Square? No, I don't expect any of this. I have the feeling something big from Sony this year after all this. I don't. One thing that came out of a games industry article where there was they were asking analysts about what they thought to expect this year, and one thing people talked about is they think acquisitions will be way down this year. I agree with that. All of this Activision Blizzard stuff has created such a battle. We don't know when this is going to end, Eber. You know what I mean? Like, the FTC thing can get dragged out all the way to the very end of the year. Sony essentially can't buy Square Enix no matter what until this is over. If Sony tries to buy Square Enix while Microsoft is battling the FTC, I already feel like Microsoft's probably going to win against the FTC. But if that were to happen, it's over. Microsoft wins, and they win in a colossal slam dunk. Because you cannot make the argument anymore, because Sony's the main one that's battling Microsoft. The rest of the industry has essentially said it's fine. Sony is the one that is giving the FTC all of their talking points. And if you have Sony come out and buy one of the biggest publishers in the industry, I know it's nowhere near the size of Activision Blizzard, but it's still a massive publisher, it's done. Microsoft is literally, their lawyers are going to walk them. They're going to be like, so you're not going to allow us to buy any publishers, while you're going to just let Sony walk over here and buy Square Enix, and who knows who's next, right? Could be Square Enix was the last one, but Microsoft won't phrase it that way. Microsoft will be like, so you're just going to let Square Enix happen, and who knows? Now they could go for CD Projekt Red if they want next, or they could go for Capcom if they want next. Whether these are believable or not, these are things Microsoft will have ammunition to use in court, and I already think they're going to probably beat the FTC in a long battle. That would slam dunk, game over, it's done. So, and that court date, the actual court date, I believe isn't set until August of 2023. I just don't see that happening. No, I don't see Square Enix happening this year at all. And that's if Sony is interested in it. Never know, but I don't think so, no. I think that this whole battle has put a pretty much stop to most publisher acquisitions. You might be able to see one or two more slip through after this Activision thing, but it's blown up the whole situation. I do think you're going to see independent studios bought this year. I do think you're going to see Sony buy some independent studios this year. But Square Enix, no, I can't see it. I can't see it. I cannot see it this year anymore. Now, before FTC actually went to court, I may have had a different tone, because I would have maybe thought that Microsoft is going to get this passed through without going to court. And not only are they going to get it passed through without going to court, it's going to get done early in the year. Then a giant acquisition like Square Enix, whether that would happen or not, seems a little more on the table for Sony. But the fact that this is probably going to get dragged out pretty much for all of 2023, like, this isn't ending soon, guys. This is just strap in. This is going for the next 8 or 9 months probably. It's probably done. You're probably not going to see any sort of acquisition like that, at least this year. Maybe, in 2024, but I don't think so in 2023. Zinfamous, Benji, any in-depth thoughts on Jason Schreier's tweet about the cycle getting longer for new big-budget video game production? Yeah, we've talked about that on this chat before. Also, thoughts on Paddy Pimblett and his recent controversial win. Well, it's great to see you, Zinfamous. Always love seeing another MMA fan like myself. Really quick, in regards to Paddy Pimblett, I thought he lost that fight pretty clearly. I don't even think it was controversial, really. I thought it was pretty clear that Paddy lost. So the fact he got that decision was pretty bad, dude. I don't like to throw the word robbery around a ton, but Paddy did not win that fight. I'm sorry, he just didn't win it. He didn't win the fight. And I also thought the way he handled it, both before the fight, in regards to his comments about Ariel Helwani, and also after the fight, his comments where he's talking about how it wasn't even a close fight. Honestly, I think Paddy lost a lot of fans, dude. I really think he lost a lot of fans. Now, does that mean I think the Paddy Pimblett train's over? I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying I don't think he's the baby face, huge, fans love him that he was before that. I think the combination of the Ariel Helwani situation, then losing or winning, which a lot of people think he lost that fight, and then his comments after the fight, all those things I think hurt his image, to be honest, quite a bit. So he can still turn things around. He could have a hugely impressive, awesome win in his next fight, handle everything well, and be right back on the board. But right now, I think his stock did take a hit. In regards to Jason Schreier's tweet, we've talked about this on the channel a lot before, and I'm glad Jason's also talking about it, because I said, I don't remember what chat. I mean, this could have been 6 months ago or whatever. At some point, we were talking about the video game industry, and I said, to me, the biggest threat and issue in the video game industry, because people always throw around a ton of different things. Is it microtransactions? Is it the shift to digital? Is it the shift to subscriptions? To me, it's pretty clear what the biggest issue is in the video game industry. It's how freaking long games take to make. And it's like a two-part issue around why that's such a huge problem. Here's the two reasons why game development time taking so long now is such an issue. One, it inherently makes all games riskier. And let's just talk about the time factor first, because this is also going to go into my second point. If you are a studio, let's just pick a studio, pick any random studio, and you're making AAA games. The reality is, once you make a AAA game, you start on that process. If you're a very efficient studio, let's just say you're efficient, you're looking at a minimum of 4 years. 90% of AAA game production companies are not putting games out in 3 years. That doesn't mean that there's none. So to be clear, I'm not telling you there's no studio that can make a AAA game in 3 years. There are ones that can do it. For the vast bulk, you're looking at least 4 years. If you're making a brand new IP, that could be 5 years. That could be 6 years. We've seen it. Okay, so let's just purely discuss time factor now. Let's say you make a new IP. You're a studio, you're making a AAA game, you make a new IP, and it takes you, let's just say 5 years. Let's not even go to 6, even though some of them take 6. Let's just say 5 years. It takes you 5 years to make a new IP. Let's say that new IP bombs. You just spent 5 years making a game, and it bombed. Now you're sitting in a situation where you're like, holy crap, we just took 5 years to make a game and it didn't perform. To get another game out the door, to give ourselves the next chance, it's going to be at least 4 years. We just spent 9 years between getting the combined of getting a game out, it underperforming, and then until we get to our next chance. 9 years. Maybe that's 8 years. 8 years. It's a problem. And this isn't, to be very clear, this is not a lazy devs argument. You need to make your games faster. Literally not at all. Dude, the people that are developing these games are working their freaking butts off. This isn't anything to do with devs. It just has to do with how crazy these cycles are getting. So there's your first point. You're just talking in terms of pure length, why it's so risky in terms of time. Now let's go into the second reason why that's so dangerous. Everyone talks about how, games are just so expensive to make nowadays, which makes them risky. Guess what? The longer it takes you to make the game, the budget goes up. It's a simple math equation. If you develop a game in 3 years or you develop a game in 5 years, guess what? The 3-year game is cheaper because the main factor you're factoring in with game budget is how many devs you're paying per year. Is there other expenses? Sure. Is there voice talent? Sure. Is there licensing things? Sure. Right? It's not the only factor, but your main factor for a game's budget in many, many ways, a huge chunk of that budget is simply how many devs are we paying to make this game over X amount of years. A 3-year development window is automatically going to be less expensive than a 5-year window. Now, again, it's not a perfect situation. Maybe to get that game out in 3 years, you have to hire more people. I'm not saying that just shift all development, smash it, the 5-year window into 3 years and it's fixed. No, because there is more issues. But I'm saying, let's just say by some magic, no matter what, the game is going to take either 3 years, 5 years, all things being equal. The 3-year development time is cheaper than the 5-year development time. So you're so risky because of so much time that has to go between each release. You're just gambling that every 4 to 5 years, maybe you'll have a hit. And if you don't have a hit, you're going to have another 4 to 5 years before your next hit. And your budget just goes up over pure time. So It's the biggest issue. It's the biggest threat facing AAA video games. Now, how that's going to be fixed, I have no idea. And I don't think many in the industry do. It's become a huge problem. One argument that you see a lot online is just make games smaller, make them less ambitious. You don't have to go so crazy. But the problem is if you do that, they don't sell. That's just the reality. Good luck releasing like an 8-hour, like how there used to be like an 8-hour game for full price. And let's see how it's going to sell. They usually don't sell that well. There's a reason why AAA, this is a bit different for indie games, but there's a reason why AAA games have shifted so heavily to being open world. Look at how many open world games there are. People are always like, why is there so many open world games? Because people buy them. That's like the reality. People buy open world games. They're big, they're long. You're seeing most AAA games now be 20, 30, 40, 50 hours. It's very rare you're seeing a AAA game under 20 hours nowadays. Very rare. So I don't think the argument of just make them smaller is going to fix it either. I think it's going to have to take some sort of technological breakthrough. What that's going to be. Is it AI? Is AI going to help offset development time? I have no idea. I don't know, Infamous. It's a hard question to answer, but it's a huge problem. It's a massive problem, particularly for AAA. It just makes AAA development so risky. I've talked about this before. Making a movie or making a TV show, it's risky, but it's a lot less risky because of the turnaround times. And that doesn't mean that, a studio can make a blockbuster movie in 2 years. Game devs are lazy because you can't get a AAA game out in 2 years. They're not the same comparison, right? A movie is 3 hours long. A AAA game is going to be potentially 10 times that amount of length, right? You're talking potentially up to 30 hours or more. So it's not really that, but if we're just looking at like entertainment, these distributors eat bombs all the time. All the time. They just eat bombs. Sony, multiple bombs this year. We're talking about movies now, not games. They eat multiple bombs this year. Disney had multiple huge bombs this year. Et cetera, et cetera. I could name multiple studios that had multiple bombs this year. And guess what? No one's going out of business. If you're a AAA publisher, and let's say you're like Disney. Disney had, some huge hits, but let's say you're releasing like 3 bombs per year. You're done, dude. You're done. You can't be dropping 3 AAA bombs per year. It just doesn't work like that because of how risky they are. So it's a problem. It's a problem, Infamous. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's an issue. Sorry for the long answer, but it's a fascinating question and one that I don't know the answer to. I think it's going to have to come from technology breakthroughs. AI or something like that. Let's see. I think there was 2 super chats that dropped. There was Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. Benji, do you see any backlash against Sony from Microsoft, or if Sony tries to make any acquisition in the future and not just 2023 into 2024? So is there going to be any backlash on acquisitions? I think as long as they're independent studios, not really. I mean, you're going to always have some people upset that like, hey, this studio that I like is now bought by another company, and maybe that potentially means you miss out on games from them. But like, if you mean like significant backlash, no. Where you would start to see significant backlash is publishers. We're already seeing significant pushback from publishers in regards to like the government. But I think you'll start to see that more and more from the gaming community as well if that continued, whether that's anyone, whether it's Sony buying a bunch more, Microsoft buying a bunch more. I'm pretty uncomfortable with the idea of all the publishers getting bought, to be honest with you. I'm someone that's all for, we've talked about in this chat, buy as many independent studios as you want because anyone can go establish a new studio. Me and you, Highlander, can go start a new video game studio. We can't go establish the next Activision. You know what I mean? It's a whole different level, right? Publishers are a whole different thing. Anyone can start an independent studio and grow that independent studio into a AAA studio. Maybe if you're lucky, the odds are low, but maybe you can get there. The odds of going from, hey, me and Highlander start a studio to now we're the next Activision are basically, 1,000,000 to 1. And that might be conservative. Maybe it's more 1,000,000,000 to 1 that the odds of that happen. So publishers I am starting to get uncomfortable with. I hope this Activision Blizzard one, to be honest, is the last publisher we see bought. But independent studios, I don't think it matters. Anyone can, we see independent studios established literally every month. It seems like almost every month there's an announcement of a new studio. I don't think that's an issue. But publishers, I don't like it. And I think you will see pushback, yeah, even from the gaming community if this keeps up. Reverse World with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Reverse World. Lies of P and Atomic Heart, massive Dark Horse Game Pass games. You could not be more accurate. You are spot on, Reverse World. Atomic Heart is getting some serious buzz. Game visually looks gorgeous. We'll have to see if the game itself's good, but I agree with you. I could see Atomic Heart being a breakout on Game Pass, and same with Lies of P. People love Souls-type games. Visually, this kind of shares some similarities with Bloodborne, not in terms of story or setting too much, but it just kind of visually has that feel as Bloodborne. I agree literally on both of these. Now, we need to see if they're good games, but are they Dark Horse Game Pass hits? Yeah, absolutely. Look at what happened with High on Life, right? People went into High on Life not expecting too much, and it was the biggest third-party single-player release ever on Game Pass. Not just this year, that has ever hit the service. Like, that's crazy. That's one of the powers of Game Pass. Games are so easily accessible that if a game is good, if it connects with an audience, it can blow up. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with both those, honestly. Lies of P and Atomic Heart. They are dark horses. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. Last one. Yeah, I think that's your 4th one, dude, but thank you. Thoughts on GT7 movie? It looked better than I expected. We didn't see much, but yeah, I'll go into it. How well will it do? I always thought race movies were niche. Fast and Furious are not true racing movies. Yeah, these aren't like huge movies. There's been some. Ford vs. Ferrari was one that was pretty successful. There's that one with Thor. Chris Hemsworth, I think it's called Rush. That was pretty successful. So there are like some racing movies that have done pretty well. But yeah, there hasn't been it's not like a huge genre for movies. There's some, but I thought what they showed, we barely saw anything. If you guys have missed it at CES, Sony gave like a little tease of Gran Turismo. I think it could do okay. It depends on what the budget on this thing is. Hopefully they budget it correctly. I think the talent involved is pretty darn good. David Harbour, I think, is a great actor. Orlando Bloom, very good actor. So I think they nailed the cast. They've got Neil Blomkamp directing, who's a very solid director. So Highlander, I would say I'm feeling better about it than I thought before I saw it, to be honest, before I saw some footage. It could do okay. It's not going to be a blockbuster. Is this going to do $400 million like Uncharted did? No. Do not expect $400 million from Gran Turismo. But if it's a really, really good movie, because it's based on a true story, guys, which I think actually helps it. I think this would have a bigger issue if it was some sort of fiction story. Trying to make a fictional racing story connect might not really work, but the fact that this is based on a true story might help people engage with it more. Kind of like Ford vs. Ferrari was. That's based on a true story, and I believe Rush was as well. I think those are both based on true stories like this. So I think that's the best way to make it work. So we'll have to see Highlander, but I would say I am middle of the road optimistic on it. I am not expecting a breakout, but I could see it doing okay. I bet you this movie has less than $100 million budget. I bet you this movie has like a $50 million budget. I could be wrong. Maybe Sony's crazy. I would not budget this over $100 million. Uncharted's budget was, I believe, 120 was the budget for Uncharted. It hopefully should be way less than that. If this has like a $50 million budget, it might be profitable and successful. Hopefully they budgeted it right, though, but we'll have to see. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think so. $50 million and they're okay. Logan Hardy. Hey, Benji, prediction time. Do you think Spider-Man 2 will break the mold and be a 90+ on meta and be a serious Game of the Year contender? And do you think Starfield can disappoint? In regards to the second question, yes. I think any game can disappoint. You guys know I'm a very positive person in general in terms of what I talk about. And that's a conscious decision, not because I want to go around and be like, oh, I'm Mr. Positive, but it's because I only have so long to live, like everyone does. We only live for so long, and that time isn't very long, and you never know when it can go away. And I don't want to choose to spend my short time I have being alive being negative. You know what I mean? You get one shot. You got one shot at life. Got to make a decision. The decisions you make carry throughout your life. I'm going to choose to talk about and celebrate the things that I like. Like, that's what I'm going to choose to do with the time I've got, because it ain't much. I don't want to spend that time complaining and being negative. That doesn't mean you can't make negative statements about something. Absolutely. And it's your life. If you want to be a negative person, I'm not saying you, Logan, I'm saying people, go for it. It's your life. I can't tell you how to live, but me, I'm consciously choosing to focus on things I like, and things I don't like, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to engage with that. I'm going to move away from it. Instead of complaining about it all day, I could be dead in a week. I'd rather, go do something I like. So, can it disappoint? Absolutely. Back to my statement about I try to be positive. I also know anything can disappoint. Sure. There's been all sorts of stuff I've been super excited about, whether it's games, movies, shows that, were disappointing. So Starfield, could it? Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I would say, with the hype that's built around it. I think some Xbox fans are getting into dangerous territory for themselves for how much they're hyping it. You always want to be careful to be excited for stuff. I always, there's so many games I'm excited for right now, but there are some Xbox fans that are proclaiming this is the greatest game ever made before it's out. And I'd be like, dude, you might want to be careful. Whenever you're setting such lofty expectations for yourself, you're the one putting it on it. That might be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for any game to meet those expectations. So, I personally think it's going to be a very good game. Do I think it's going to be this 95 Metacritic Game of the Year for Starfield? No, I don't. I'm expecting high 80s for Starfield, like an 87, 88, kind of what I'm expecting out of it. And in regards to Spider-Man 2, can it be 90 plus? Sure, but that's becoming harder and harder to hit. So if I was going to predict it, I would say no. I would also predict high 80s for Spider-Man. But you never know. But 90 plus is pretty freaking hard now. It's not like how it used to be where you saw a lot of 90 plus Metacritic games per year. There's some, there was a few last year. God of War got there, Elden Ring got there, but it ain't common. Nowadays, high 80s is the new 90s. So I'll predict high 80s on both. I think Spider-Man and Starfield are both, in that 86 to 89 window. Randy Norman. I think at the showcase we will see Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Redfall, Minecraft Legends, and Hi-Fi Rush, the leaked Tango game. My question for you is, will there be third-party games at the showcase or just first-party? I would assume only first-party. The only third-party stuff that might be there, Randy, assuming this thing's real, is maybe some Game Pass games that are going to hit in the first 6 months. But that's about all I would expect. Like I said, this isn't, in my opinion, an E3 level show. Why would you have an E3 level show in January or February and then an E3 level show in June? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But, I could see that lineup that you're saying. Yeah, exactly. All those and then a Hi-Fi Rush level announcement. Yeah, I could absolutely see that. Third party, like I said, probably not unless it's a Game Pass game. Cameron Swear, Benji was a little surprised to see the Switch lead in the UK for 2022. Let's assume no new hardware. Sales prediction for Switch in 2023 worldwide. Well, absolutely not number one. It will be PlayStation 5 next year. Or I should say this year now. I am positive on that. But still great, but down from this year. The same. I've had the same situation with Switch, and it hasn't changed for any of this. I've been telling you guys this for the last 2 years. It's just on its slow decline. So it'll sell less next year than it did this year, but it won't be a giant drop. It's not like it's all of a sudden going to just fall off a cliff. It's going to be the same situation that we saw in 2022. It's just going to be a slight decline. Switch is just on its slope, towards the end of its life cycle. So still very good. It won't be the number one hardware worldwide. It will be PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 will be the number one selling console in 2023 globally. I am basically positive about that. This is the first video of January, so if I'm wrong, you guys can come back and quote me on it. And I'll be like, you know what? I screwed that up. Because I get stuff wrong sometimes. But I would say I'm extraordinarily confident that PlayStation 5 is the number one selling platform globally in 2023. And Switch, still very good. A great year, just down from 2022, but not in a massive way, just a slight decline. Michael Derry. Hey, Benji. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Michael. It seems like every month this year has at least one phenomenal looking game dropping. I agree. 2023 looks insane. Which are you most excited for, and do you see any potential disappointments brewing? I made my top 10 list. A few off the top of my head. Starfield, Spider-Man 2, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Fire Emblem Engage, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, Diablo 4. I'm sure there's a ton more. I mean, there's a ton. Like you said, there's so many, it's crazy. But that's a few off the top of my head. I'm one of those people that plays every platform and every genre. So it's nuts. It's a crazy year. Now, potential disappointments. I said Starfield in regards to expectations. I still think Starfield's going to be a great game, guys. Great game. I'm just a little worried for some in the Xbox community with the way they're hyping it. I think it's going to be very, very good. But I do think there's a danger that people are expecting this to be like some 95 Metacritic game, and I will be utterly shocked if that happens. So, but when I say, it's hard to say Starfield, because I think it's still going to be a great game. I still think it might even be a Game of the Year nominee. I'm just a little worried at the hype going into that it could not meet that level of anticipation. Man, it's hard to say disappointment. It's hard to say. Because a lot of the games that are coming this year we haven't seen much of. I'm very confident in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so I ain't too worried about that. Oh, here's one. Here's actually one that is high on my list for potential disappointment. Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad. Keep your eyes on that. I hope it's great. I hope it's a 90 Metacritic game. That would be the one, Michael. If you told me what is the one game that might like really not deliver, given the pedigree that Rocksteady has, Suicide Squad. That game's about to come out. We still essentially don't know anything about it. We've barely seen gameplay, dude. You guys know that game comes out in May? The game comes out in like 4 months, 4 or 5 months, and they've still like essentially shown like no gameplay of that game. There was like that one tiny little thing they showed a long time ago, but like they've barely shown this game besides like cutscenes, and it's about to come out, and it's been in development for like friggin' ever. That's the one, Suicide Squad. Yep, that's the one. That is numero uno for a game that might be the biggest disappointment of the year. Now, it could be incredible. So whenever I say all this, keep in mind I'm not declaring it will be. But what big game has the most red flags around it? To me, no question, Suicide Squad. That is the one. Johnny G, Happy New Year. What's up, Johnny G? Super Hidden Account saying Happy New Year. What is up, Super Hidden Accounts? Dude. Pal Region Plays. Good evening from Buckinghamshire, England. Greetings to England. I love seeing people from all over the world in my chat. I love it. I hope you're doing great over there in England. Grand Theft Auto, man. How long have we been going? I'm going to go for about 10-ish more minutes, guys. 10 to 15. And then I'm out because I got to go to work. So we got about 10 to 15 minutes. Thanks for a great chat, everybody. GTA Man 51, Benji, Happy New Year. How do you think PSVR 2 will do compared to the first one? My feelings on this have changed, guys. Let's see. I have a feeling it'll have a softer launch, mostly due to its price tag and an underwhelming launch lineup. Okay, so GTA Man, I'm glad someone brought this up because I was asked about this, I want to say like a month or two ago. And at the time, I was feeling like decently good about PSVR 2 because the hardware is so much better. I thought price tag would be an issue. But as we've gotten closer, I can just tell you the metrics around PSVR 2 are terrible. Now, does that mean it's going to perform terrible? No. But this thing has no mainstream buzz at all. Its social media metrics are bad. Not underwhelming, bad. They're bad. They are bad. You can't read everything into social media metrics, but this thing gets no mainstream attention at all. And it is about to come out. So, I don't know, GTA, man. The price tag is such a problem. And I know it's a good price tag for the tech, guys. I know that. Because, you'll have some VR fans get upset when you say that the price tag's a problem. And they'll be like, you aren't going to get anything that this level of quality for $600. You have to spend like $1,000 or whatever to get this level of quality. I'm not telling you guys it's a bad price tag for what you're getting. I'm just saying, dude, $600 friggin' $550 to $600 is a lot of freaking money. It's a lot of money. And it doesn't have many killer apps. I'm just going to be real with you guys. The launch lineup is not that impressive. Is there some cool stuff? Yes. But, dude, I don't know, GTA, man. My feelings on PSVR 2 are shifting by the day. I hope it's a huge success. I love VR. I own a PSVR 1. I have a Quest 1. And I have a Quest 2. I have 3 VR headsets. My Quest 2 was in here. But I was just using it, actually, to play Beat Saber. So, I don't know, man. I ain't feeling as near as good about PSVR 2 as I was, let's say, a month or two ago. We'll have to see. I hope it does well. Because I actually want this on a personal level. I want this to be a smashing success. I'm even a VR fan, and I'm thinking about canceling my pre-order. I'm even I love VR, and I have this thing pre-ordered, and I am very, very close to just canceling it. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of games hitting in the window it's coming out that I want to play. Hogwarts will be out around there. Fire Emblem's going to be just recently out. Forspoken is going to be just recently out. Monster Hunter Rise is going to be just recently out. There's all these other games coming that look great. And PSVR 2 doesn't have many killer apps for launch. Village looks cool. Horizon Call of the Mountain looks cool. But it's not like there's 10 must-have day one games. I'm absolutely going to buy a PSVR 2, but I would say right now I'm probably 85 to 90% sure I'm going to cancel my pre-order. So, we'll see, but I ain't feeling great about it now, GTA, man. My opinion has shifted. Oh, and I feel bad because we're getting into some negative stuff that I agree with. We were just talking about how I like to be positive, but man, that one and then this one back to back. Do you think Forspoken will underperform from Pumpkin TV? Yeah, I kind of do. I hate to say it. Because I was feeling really confident about Forspoken when it was first announced. I mean, hey, it's a big, giant JRPG exclusive from Square Enix. It originally looked pretty amazing what they've shown. However, since then, it has not looked near as good, just in general, as I think most of us expected. And also, the feedback to the demo was horrible. Hopefully, the final game is a lot better. But the reaction to the Forspoken demo online was one of the worst reactions to a demo I've ever seen. A lot of negativity I saw, even from huge PlayStation fans. So, I will say Pumpkin TV, it will probably underperform unless the game reviews better than I think we are expecting, which is possible. You can't always say that the demo, will be exactly like the full game. Once it's, you have it in your hands, you can play the whole thing. But, if the reaction to the full game is the same as the reaction to the demo, yes, I think it underperforms. Let me see, did we get a super chat in here towards the end? I think there might have been. There is. Yes, there is. Benji with a 5. Benji, any thoughts on the Switch 2 launch timing? I'm a bit worried by the rumored drought post Tears of the Kingdom. Could this mean 2024? Yeah, it absolutely could. I've kind of been on that opinion for a while that it very well could be first quarter 2024. The only thing I've said is I feel pretty confident, Benji, that it is going to be this coming fiscal year. But I've always said that fiscal year goes all the way till March 2024. I really don't think it'll be later than that. I will be surprised if this is holiday 2024. I do think it's this fiscal year, but I've said for a long time, I think it's probably towards the end of the fiscal year. So yeah, Benji, my opinion is it's probably early 2024, like how Switch was early, what was that, 2017? That's kind of what I'm thinking, Benji, yeah. Could this sneak in for a holiday 2023? Maybe. I would not expect it early in the year at all. A lot of people have been like, is this going to come out alongside Zelda? I've said for a long time I don't think it's going to. I do think it's this fiscal year, but probably not till the end. So could this mean 2024 like you're asking? Yes. I think it is probably 2024. I think it's probably March 2024 like they did with the Switch 1. Really worked in that window. It gives them time to get production. If you launch in March, that kind of gives you time to build up production levels going into that first holiday, instead of just launching in the holiday where it's a little difficult. You're trying to like figure out your manufacturing process and you're rushing everything out there just to launch in the holiday window. You launch in March, you know, you got a lot of time to build up your production, get it going, ready for this big first holiday. You're not really gonna have other hardware to launch against. Yeah, I think March 2024 could absolutely happen. But I do think it's this fiscal year. I will be surprised if you don't get switched to this fiscal year. That will surprise me. Tonsi K, Benji, nice to see you again. Nice to see you, Tonsi. Sony's forecast this fiscal year is 18 million, isn't it? How much is left and how much Sony can achieve it for the remaining 3 months? But we actually don't know for sure because we don't know what they actually shipped this last quarter. They gave us the sell-through of 30 million, but they did not give us the shipment numbers. That will come in whenever they report the quarter. So what they have shipped right now is they have shipped, one sec. So they shipped 5.7 million in the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year combined. However, that is, of course, lacking the holiday quarter. We don't know what they shipped holiday quarter. It looks like they probably shipped like 5 million holiday quarter because they were at 25 million sell-through or shipped. It was 25 million shipped, I believe, in September. Sell-through would be a little bit lower than that. So it looks like they probably shipped at least 5 million this quarter, which would put them to 10.7. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it needs to be a lot higher. A lot higher. So, yeah, that's going to look tough. That's going to look tough to hit that 18, just like you made a good point. I would say, let's see. That put him at 15 point. It's doable. No, dude, the 18 million is still in play. Here's the thing. It's hard to say. It is. It's hard to say. We need to see this quarter, Tonsi. I can't tell you for sure if they're going to hit that 18 million or not until we see what they actually shipped for the holiday quarter. They have not reported that yet. So let's see. Let's see what that shipment number is, but it needs to be high. It needs to be high. If they can get to 6 million, 2.4 plus... it's going to be close, dude. They need at least 6 million for the holiday quarter, at least. Because that puts them at almost 12 million, and then they would need another 6 in that first quarter, which would be a massive improvement, right? That would be like utterly insane. A 6 million first quarter seems borderline impossible, so if it's anything under 6 million, they're not going to hit 18. They have to have shipped at least 6 million this last quarter. They have to. At least. If not more. If it's under 6 million, Tonsi, for this last quarter, they won't hit 18. They still might not. Even if they ship 16, they still might not hit 18. But they have to have at least shipped 6 million units. If it's under that, they're not going to make it. So pretty crazy. It needs to be high. We'll see. We will see. PAL Region plays here in the UK, only 60,000 units separate the 3 consoles. Is it similarly close globally / other regions? No. The UK was just incredibly close this year, but no, it doesn't shake out that way globally or in most other regions. I mean, maybe in some, but like in Japan, it's, you know, switched by an utter landslide. So, and globally, it's not near that close. There's quite a bit of a gap, for example, between PlayStation and Xbox globally. Xbox is doing good this gen compared to the Xbox One, but it's still a pretty good sized gap globally speaking between those and yeah, in general, they're just, the 3 of them aren't that close. No, it's more of a UK specific situation. I think we had a super chat. We did have a super chat. Benji coming in here right towards the end of the chat. Benji, I know the Fable rumor was debunked. Yeah, I knew that had to be fake the minute I saw it out for some reasons I won't go into, but it seemed pretty obvious to me. But we haven't heard much about Everwild Perfect Dark, Hellblade 2, Avowed, etc. Seems Bethesda will save 23, Starfield, and Redfall for Microsoft. Well, Benji, there are somewhat reliable rumors Hellblade's this year. So, I don't want to say it's a lock, but there's some fairly good reports out there that Hellblade is making this year. So we've seen Hellblade. I think the main reason you haven't seen Hellblade is they've already shown it multiple times. They probably won't show Hellblade again until they're going to release date it, because they've shown, like, Hellblade should have been shown, I think, 3 times. You don't want to, like, show the game non-stop before it comes out, like, years before. So I think that's why Hellblade specifically has been like, okay, we've already shown this game multiple times now. Let's wait until we're going to date it to show it again. So I'm not that worried about why we haven't seen Hellblade in, like, what, a year or something like that. Not that worried about it. I would be if we hadn't seen it before, but we've seen it like 2 or 3 times. Everwild is in development hell. I know that for a fact. So in regards to that, yeah, it is. Now, maybe that's been fixed, but yeah, Everwild's been in development hell. Perfect Dark. I want to be careful what I say about Perfect Dark. I have heard some things about it that have to do with the initiative. I believe from what I'm hearing, it has smoothed out. So I think Perfect Dark is probably in a good place now. But was Perfect Dark always in a good place? No. Avowed, I actually don't have much info on. That would be a better question for Jez. Jez has info on Avowed, so I would ask him. But yeah, that's the state of those games. From what I understand, Everwild, yes, was in very, very much development hell, but maybe that's been fixed. Perfect Dark was in rough shape at one point, but from what I understand is pretty good now. Hellblade 2, I think, is fine. Avowed, I don't know. Avowed, I literally just don't know. I don't know anything about Avowed, really. And yeah, Bethesda's going to be big for them this year. Bethesda is big. Yeah, Starfield and Redfall are both good. Thank goodness they have Bethesda, right? Okay. Almost done, guys. Like 1 or 2 more and I'm out. Real Radic is asking about the Gran Turismo movie again. Thoughts on Gran Turismo sneak peek? Do you think it will gross more than Uncharted? 400 million? 0% chance, in my opinion. GT is the best-selling franchise. Yeah, but Uncharted translates better to a movie, and Uncharted starred Tom Holland, who's a massive star. Let's look at the box office. These are going to be your closest comparison points, probably. Ford versus Ferrari and Rush. So let's see. Ford versus Ferrari box office is... Ford vs. Ferrari made $225 million, and that's with some legit stars attached to it, right? That had Matt Damon and Christian Bale in it, so you had 2 huge stars, and that got to $225 million, which for a racing movie is nice. And then let's look at Rush. So your Rush's box office. Yeah, you know what Rush's box office is? $98 million, and that was with Chris Hemsworth. So, no. I don't expect this to get even remotely near $400 million. If this can make $200, if this can do half of that, it would be a huge success. Like I said, I bet this movie's budget's low. Do we have a number? Oftentimes we get, unlike gaming, a lot of times we get budgets for movies. Let's see. I don't know if we have a budget for it, though. I don't think we do. We don't. Yeah, there's no reported budget for the Gran Turismo movies. So, no, don't go in expecting $400 million. I don't think it'll get even anywhere near that. If this movie hits $200 million, I think it will be a colossal success. So, yeah, and it could be a lot less than that. Hopefully the budget is low. Because racing movies, like we talked before, they're not huge hitters. It ain't going to get anywhere near Uncharted. All right. I'm going to do one more and I'm going to go. Sorry, I wish I could do more. What's up, JCat? Great to see you. Thanks for helping mod. And yeah, sorry, you're saying didn't realize I went live. Dude, you're fine. I didn't stream for like 2 weeks. I'm going to do one random one. Sorry, guys, for the ones I'm going to miss. I'm just picking one random one. Yep. Yep. JCat Alice gave updated sales numbers for Persona 5 Royale, but not player numbers for Game Pass. Yeah, that's not too surprising, though. Sorry. I know this isn't thrilling footage right now, me looking for a question. All right, I just need to pick one and go. Here, we'll go towards the bottom. Big Mad Mo, Days of Thunder. Yeah, that's a good question. We won't count that as my question, but Days of Thunder box office is probably not too crazy but that was also a long time ago. You know what I mean? The money's going to translate differently because of inflation. Yeah, I mean, that was a hit. That was $157 million back in, what is that, 1990? Yeah, so that's a legit hit. Big Mad Mo, good call. Days of Thunder was a legit hit. $157.9 million in 1990 with inflation. That's a legitimate hit. Good call. Good call. But you know what? That's got Tom Cruise, baby. The cruise missile. He don't miss. I know he's had some misses. But no, good call out, Big Mad Mo. That is a definite hit. So is Ford vs. Ferrari. That's two racing movies you can point to that legitimately were hits. Ford vs. Ferrari at over $200 million, and Days of Thunder at $157 million in 1990 money. Good. Yep, two legit hits there. So hopefully, like I said, if we can see Gran Turismo hit $200 million, I think that'll be very successful. Some people are saying they expect Suicide Squad to get delayed. Yeah, it might get delayed. All right, I'm gonna call it there just because I ran out of time. I feel bad. Guy Gravity says, let's go. First stream right as it ends. Sorry, Guy Gravity. You can go back and watch if you want. It was, I think, a solid one. Mr. J will end us here. What's your thoughts on ChatGPT? Apparently, it will be used for NPC character dialogue in games moving forward. I'm actually somewhat okay with this. Here's what I'm hoping. This is what I hope with AI in game development. I don't want to see AI take anyone's jobs. Right? Because that would suck, right? It's already hard enough being a game dev. If all of a sudden now you're losing your jobs to or a voice actor or anything like that, if you're losing them to AI, that's a problem. My hope, this is the optimistic view on AI, is AI will really help streamline game development. And maybe, and this is early days, guys, so who knows if any of this is going to happen. But like what you're saying here for NPC chatter, maybe we can get to the point where AI can help with textures to some degree, and then artists go in there and clean it up and add their own flair, right? Maybe you give it a certain amount of parameters, it gets some of the bulk work done, and you can go in and clean it up. Maybe we'll see AI for animations, for example, kind of do like the bulk, like just like a force, and then regular human artists and animators and things like that can come in and clean things up. Maybe, and I don't know, this is the optimistic viewpoint of it, maybe AI can help game development in those ways, and it can actually help make game development time shorter. I think that is a potential outcome of AI. We don't know. I don't think it's impossible, though. Some of the stuff we're seeing out of AI, I don't think it's impossible to where we could see like almost like a symbiotic relationship between real world developers and AI, where they're like working together to make projects. And you're still having, devs have awesome creativity and do awesome stuff. Not that AI is doing everything for them, but maybe it can do some of the like grunt, like forceful work, you know what I mean? Like the large amount of time work. And then artists, developers, etc., can come through and give it their own flair and clean things up. Maybe we can get to a point like that at some point. Not next year, but maybe in the next 10 years, you see something like that, and it can make dev times a little bit shorter. You never know. These sorts of things are possible. There's always new stuff that's been coming up with procedurally generated worlds and all that kind of stuff. You never know. J-Dub with the super chat right at the end. What's up, J-Dub? I'm going to hit that J-Dub super chat and then we're out. Thank you so much, dude, for the super chat. The Last of Us HBO series budget bigger than Game of Thrones thoughts. Yeah, crazy. If you guys have missed this, it wasn't more expensive than like the very late seasons of Game of Thrones after that thing was already a massive, massive hit. But they did, I believe the reported estimate is about 10 million per episode, $100 million, I think, for the show in general. Huge. Clearly, HBO thinks that this is their next big hit. And you can tell that by the way they've been marketing it. So hopefully the quality is there, J-Dub. I think it could be a huge hit. But HBO is very confident. You kind of first got the feeling HBO was crazy confident whenever, this was a long time ago, if you guys remember, they released that like sizzle reel of upcoming HBO projects, and they saved in that sizzle reel, which had shows that were like pretty big for them, like I think House of the Dragon was in that. I think that Magnolia show, can't remember the name of it, that's already successful for them, was in it. But at the very end, the thing they saved for last, and they said, and HBO's original The Last of Us, right? That's what they closed the sizzle reel with. You could tell it's like, okay, they think this is going to be a hit. And the way they've marketed it and stuff, yeah, guys, I know casual people that don't play games at all that are excited for the show. I know multiple that are excited for the show that have never played the game in their life and don't even play video games. So could be a hit. Could be a hit, J-Dub, but we need to see. All right, guys, I'm going to call it there. Thanks for a great turnout. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you for the super chats. Sorry I was off for 2 weeks. That's not going to happen in the next 2 weeks. It was just because of the holiday season. I'm out of it now, thank goodness. I work retail, so it was a chaotic last few weeks. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great one. Like the video if you haven't already. It helps the YouTube algorithm, helps people find my channel. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It, of course, helps to get new subscribers. And yeah, I'll see you guys either next week here on YouTube, because we will be back for a live chat next week, or I will see you over on Twitter if you follow me there. That's where I'm most active. That's, I'm sure, where most of you come from. So anyways, I'll see you either on Twitter or here on YouTube. Stay safe, play some games, and I will see you all very soon. Okay, everyone, have a great day. Bye. Bye 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 bye.